you shout out the three colours still, okay?
Yeah.
Hello everyone. This is our game, Key to the Forest Heart. It's built by myself and Fern. I'm the project lead. Mark is our secretary and artist. And we have Jeffrey, who's in charge of research and development. So our main story, first of all, this is a kind of overview of what our level's like. And the main story is that you are playing as a character called Swift, and the elements have gone mad and took the key, taking the keystone from the world, and you have to return that. So we have elemental enemies, and our target audience are core gamers, so gamers that are actively playing and purchasing games. And we're specifically targeting people who like high difficulty games with like platforming elements. So here is one of the scope documents we done up. We've done 3 ones that we didn't use, and then we all pitched in on a final one. So this is R2D2's secret mission. It's set in a spaceship, kind of space location. It's a 2D platformer, and the idea is that you have to get the Death Star plant to Princess Leia. And you can fly, and when you pick up the fuel, you can fly for a certain period of time, and you have to traverse the level. Our next one is my one, called Deepest Reaches. It's set in a Dungeons Cave environment. The idea is it's procedurally generated, so it goes on forever until you eventually die. And you must fight your way through to the end and keep going as far as you can. Our third scope document that we did up with Jeff's is called Stealth Return. You are a soldier that's returning from a mission, and he has to make his way back to the home base. And throughout the game, you'll pick up weapons, and that'll help you progress. Now, our final scope document we did, and it's the main one we're using. So here's more about it. We play as Swift. Wake up one day, find the elements have gone crazy, and they're trying to destroy the worlds, the various different worlds that you play in, and it's your job to go and stop them, and you have to return the keystones as you go along. The main gameplay is obviously you're going to be fighting the elements, and the keystone is pushed along, and this will rotate the main world you're playing in. So that's the main progression, and you'll also have to collect and activate certain things throughout the level to help you move the keystone along. And it's set in a fantasy forest world, and it's a static screen platforming mainly. Yeah. So this is our main character. It is called Swift. Some of the main inspirations I took when I was making the character is squirrels and bunnies, some cute little animals. And so here's the mesh that I've done out for it as well. And it's not quite complete yet. I still have to do his eyes and UV unwrap it, etc. I'm going to switch over to Mark, who's going to talk about the artwork.
The mood board we have, it's got most of the influences on it. The main thing we did was the rotating world in a forest, so we've got lots of natural environments coming from Ori in the Blind Forest, Rayman, Piano Sisters. We've got little characters for the NPCs, little stone men. They probably won't move because of our rotating world, so we've got a bit of an issue on that one. So it'll either be static or spawn just off screen so that we can get them in without falling on our heads. We've got the only 2 games I could find that have circular world is Circle and Circle and Yet to Move. Even though Yet to is not quite circular, but it actually rotates. So it's the only other kind of similar games we could find on that. There's some concepts for the background. We're going to either have a big stone in the center that you have to either turn on or turn off. I'm not quite sure on that one. And then level design with the platforms and danger. Elements I worked on myself are the level, the wood, the mushrooms, some grass. The mushrooms are either going to be decoration or interactable, so you can either jump different heights or be dangerous. We're not quite sure on the details of mushrooms yet. And then you've got the background to have depth, which will probably be circular and rotate to a slightly different time to give a sense of movement. We went for a bright one, but we couldn't quite see the levels that we needed to land on quite well, so we darkened the thing up so the levels stand out more with the different colours. The GUI right now is quite very young and in development, so we have shot charts. So the longer you hold the button, the further the shot will go in an arcing fashion. Small health bar, and then which elements you have collected or still to collect to continue to the next level.
Yeah, and this technical specs that we'll need for the game to run. You'll need an OS like Windows XP, Mac OS 10.7 Plus, Ubuntu 12.04, or Steam OS. Any modern like graphics card greater than 2004, and an okay CPU that will be able to like run your average web game. And the web card supports Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and other ones like that. And the basic controls are use WAS and D to move, shift to move the keystone when you are in contact with it, space to shoot. The gameplay that we wanted was a rotating world, use magic like with elements, and we were also considering a boss fight that you would, when you go through levels, when the elements you collect, you'd use them to counter the elements that the boss is using against you.
Mark will now show us a white box world that we created, so currently in development. It's going to give you an idea of what it's like.
We initially thought we'd move the world independently to the character, but on quick testing we ended up finding a rather simple error with this, and the player can easily go through an object like that.
So we decided to change that and put
You can't move the world unless you're doing something that restricts you to a certain area. So the keystone came into it.
So the keystone will be set to only be in the center of the screen at any time, so that way you won't have that issue when you're moving, when you're pushing the keystone, which is realistically just rotating the world.
The goals you set out for the game is make it challenging but fair, so that you will be able to complete it, and it won't be like some of the games where it's like really hard until you get like really familiar with the game. And to make it a dark forest aesthetic, so it'd be like set in the forest, and you see all the stuff. The stakeholders with ours is we have the owner, the staff, and the investors. So far, I think we set it up as Emmett's the owner, myself and Mark are the staff working on it. As well as Emmett as well. And with the external, with creditors, distributors, and clients, we haven't really decided who those would be yet. The risks that we could possibly run into is absent labour, and the risk is work is delayed. So far, the rate of work being delayed is low, and submission of work processes, how we have our control set, and we do have that in place, and Emmett is responsible for the controls. Technical issues would be like loss of completed work. Say like your hard drive crashed and you didn't save it. So the way we do it is once you make a change, you save it, just in case that does happen. And if it does happen, you come to me and just tell me that it's happened. And if we have staff quit, like someone drop out, so far we don't have that. And the risk is more work will be brought on people that are left, and chances of that happening so far is low. The controls, good working conditions, and talk to Mark if you have any considerations of doing it. So far, the project diagram, we come up with the ideas, then we started to research was it like any other games of that type, and then work on the story, how we portrayed, how we wanted to get through to the game, and how we wanted it to look, and the colour palette, what type of colours we wanted to use, and then we bring all that into sketches, and then we start creating assets, which is what we are currently on now, building assets and then bringing the team. And the undecided features of the game are boss fights, where you have to use elements that you pick up from the levels to counter what he's using against you, and also splash screens, sound, which we haven't fully decided, and we are still looking into the peg rating.
So I'll talk about code. So the main code that so here's the main bulk of code that we'll need for the game. So we're going to have the movement, we're going to need the fire, we're going to need the code to collect the pickups and display them on the screen, etc. There's going to be hit lag, so if you get hit, you're not going to be able to do anything for a brief second, and you're also not going to be able to take damage. There's action lag, so if you put in too many inputs, you can't you can't keep spamming your main attack, and you can't just continuously jump around the place. So there's going to be some lag behind your actions to make it a bit more fair. The enemies will have basic AI. They're going to move towards the player up to a certain distance, and they're also going to fire at the player if they're within a certain range. And for the script for the world, it's going to rotate when the keystone is being pushed. There's also going to be levers or other assets around the world that we'll need to code to change the world, or like break up in a log or something so that the keystone can move further. There's going to be code on the GUI, so to display health, and that's going to change as you take damage. There's also going to be a charge bar to show how far or how much charge you have so you can shoot, and it's also going to display pickups. The splash screen, we haven't fully done any work on splash screens yet, so at the moment we just have code to make buttons work on the splash screens. So, thank you for this, and if you have any questions, feel free.
Thanks very much.